You're inside a rock shelter. It's day 4 of non-stop rain. The fire is down to a few coals. Your food ran out yesterday. Outside, the ground has turned to mud. The river has climbed halfway up the bank. And somewhere in the dark, something is moving that isn't human. Now, imagine this isn't a bad week. Imagine this is a normal part of your life every single year for over 100,000 years.
Today, when it rains for a week straight, you check your phone for the forecast, order food, and complain about traffic. For most of human history, a week of rain wasn't an inconvenience. It was one of the most dangerous stretches of time a person could live through. And what our ancestors did to survive it is stranger than you'd think.
Right now, if it rains for a week, the worst thing that happens to you is a delayed package. Your ancestors faced something closer to a siege. No dry firewood, no stored food that would last, no walls that actually kept water out. Just a shrinking dry patch of ground and a decision that had to be made correctly over and over, or someone didn't survive to see the sun again. So how do you survive being trapped for a week with almost nothing? Let's go through what actually happened.
The first problem wasn't the cold, it was math. A hunter-gatherer group typically only stored 2 to 3 days of food at a time. There was no refrigeration, no grain silos, nothing that lasted. So by day 3 of a storm, most groups were already eating less than they needed. Researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer groups, like the Hadza in Tanzania, have found that during extended bad weather, calorie intake can drop by nearly half. Half for a week, while your body still needs full fuel just to stay warm. Here's something people never think about. Mud was a killer. Not directly, but through injury. A twisted ankle or a broken bone with no antibiotics, no set casts, and no way to rest without starving often turned into a death sentence within weeks. Archaeologists studying skeletal remains from Ice Age Europe have found healed fractures that were clearly set improperly, meaning the person survived, but likely in pain and at reduced mobility for the rest of their life. Every step outside during a storm was a gamble most people today would never even think about taking.
Rain didn't just trap humans, it trapped everything else too. Predators sought the exact same dry, elevated ground that early humans used for shelter. At several Ice Age cave sites in Europe, archaeologists have found human remains layered directly alongside the remains of cave bears and cave hyenas, sometimes within the same narrow chamber. During long storms, the line between our shelter and a predator's den could disappear completely. Groups sometimes had to choose between staying dry with something dangerous or stepping back out into the storm.
If the fire died during a multi-day storm, there was no guarantee it could be restarted. For most of human history, striking a spark reliably was extremely difficult, so many groups simply didn't have a fast way to make new fire from nothing. This meant one person's entire responsibility for days at a time was sitting beside the coals, feeding them exactly enough to survive without burning through the wood supply too fast. If they failed, the whole group lost warmth, light, cooked food, and predator protection all at once.
Your body still remembers this. That craving to stay near warmth and light when it storms outside, that instinct to gather people close together and just talk for hours, that isn't boredom. That's a program written into you by ancestors who learned that during a storm, the people who huddled together near the fire were the ones who made it to the next morning.
With nowhere to go and nothing to hunt, ancient people didn't sit idle. Archaeological sites across Africa and Europe show bursts of tool production and craft work concentrated in shelters, exactly where people would have been stuck during long weather events. Precision work like drilling tiny holes into bone or grinding pigments takes hours of uninterrupted focus, something that's rare when you're constantly out hunting or foraging. In other words, the worst weeks of survival may have produced some of the most advanced tools our ancestors ever made.
So the next time it rains for days and you're stuck inside annoyed that you can't go out, remember this. Your ancestors survived that exact same week with a starving stomach, a fire that could die at any second, and a predator possibly sharing their shelter with them. They didn't get bored. They didn't get comfortable. They got through it, one careful decision at a time, and passed down everything they learned to the next generation that faced the same storm. You're not just watching their story right now. You're the reason it kept going.